all the heavy hitters are firing. What do we do? It's a big question, Nacho, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big one, mate. There's a lot of premium assets firing, and we got a lot to talk about. Who to own? That's the big question right now.
So today we'll be revealing our team and transfers for Game Week 12, and there's lots of decisions to be made. That was a big game week, Nacho, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of scores going around. I'm seeing a lot of high 80s, 90s. So I'm glad to report we've got a decent score this game week. But yeah, we've got so much to talk about, mate. There's a lot going on.
There is. So should we delve in and see how I got on Game Week 11?
Yeah, let's do the usual, mate. Let's check out your team.
Okay, so currently, at the time of recording, I'm on 72 points. So really
Very
happy
good.
with that. Yeah, really good, mate. I mean, it's great, to do a show and to actually be doing well, thank God.
Yeah.
So if I just run through some of the players, yeah, it's been a really good week. It's the week where, I've had a strategy where I've got 4 of the big heavy hitters, and it's really paid off. So I own Kane, De Bruyne, Salah, Fernandes, the fantastic 4, and they certainly were fantastic. Just running through, De Bruyne captain. That couldn't have gone better, could it? Well, I'll say that. Actually, it could have gone bloody better, because he should have scored another one, and then we really would have been rocking.
I think that's it, mate. We've been speaking about this and how he's done so well over the past few weeks, but it could have been so much more. Like, you look at it, the past, I think, previous game week to this one, he hit the post, 1-on-1 this week. Like, you're looking at, possibly like a 40-point haul this game week. And I think for those managers who don't own him, it's really, really a case of hiding behind the sofa right now, because when you're the best player in the league, sometimes you just got to own the player who is performing the best in the league. And it's so hard not to have this guy right now.
I think you're spot on, mate. When he hit that crossbar as well, so close to an absolute mega haul. I think, in the FPL kind of world, we're really scared of saying the words essential, but I do think De Bruyne and possibly Fernandes are essential right now. I think they have so many avenues to get points, whether it be set pieces, and they're both shooting a lot this season. So I think they are essential for your team at the minute. Would you agree with that, or?
Yeah, so 100% Kevin De Bruyne. I think there's been a lot of talk about Sterling and Kevin De Bruyne. I think Kevin De Bruyne, you get him in and you hold him for the whole season. He's just a great option. I agree Fernandes is an unbelievable option, and I'm going to say here that I would own him if I could. However, I don't think he's at the same tier as Kevin De Bruyne, and that's only because I don't know what to expect with Man United. I think if Man United do well, then Fernandes is going to be at the heart of that. But in comparison to Man City, I kind of know what I'm getting with Man City, whereas Man United, 1 week Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's job's up for grabs, the next week he's clear. So we just really don't know what we're getting with Fernandes. But as you mentioned, mate, when Man United do well, he is at the heart of it. I'm assuming you're not selling him anytime soon.
Definitely not selling him anytime soon. I think the reason why I do think you really should own him is literally just because of his price as well. I think you look at De Bruyne and Salah, they're that little bit more expensive. I think Fernandes still offers really good value at the price he is. So yeah, really happy with him. And obviously Salah came in big. He's just consistent, Yeah. I do prefer Fernandes and De Bruyne, but Salah...
Really?
I actually do. I think because they've got more avenues to points, I think Salah, you're relying on that one-on-one he gets in the game, or that kind of... he will do well, I'm not saying that, but I just think they're safer. But let's be honest, I'm happy owning all 4 around with Kane.
Yeah, you look very good right now.
Definitely.
The thing about your team right now is you have so many captaincy outs. So you have the potential here to go almost a whole season with this 4 and have a captaincy option each game week. So that's the structure that you kind of want to go towards right now with these premium assets firing so well.
And that is it. And that's my advice to people would be is, pick your heavy hitters on who you would captain. That's how I've done mine. I said over these few weeks, I want to captain De Bruyne and Fernandes, so they're integral for me. And I think that's the best strategy in how to keep rising up those ranks. I will say that my transfer this week, I decided to do Grealish to Jota. And it didn't work out this week, but the thinking was that Jota would do better over 2 games and included the Fulham game than Grealish. So it'd be interesting. I'm still confident, and I maybe would like to bring Grealish back afterwards. But on another day that move works, and I think he'll play against Fulham. What do you think, Jota?
Yeah. I think we were quite surprised to see Jota on the bench. I think there was a lot of talk about him possibly being rested, but when he came off early in that Champions League game, you kind of expected Jota to be starting. I think the big thing is you're owning him for this coming game week, aren't you? And I think the fact that you have him with Salah against Fulham just looks great. So although he didn't feature as much against Wolves, I think game week 12 is where it's really at for him. And I think the potential ceiling is so much higher. And yeah, he could definitely have a haul in this coming game week.
I agree, mate. So yeah, really happy with kind of this game week. I've risen about a few more 100,000 up the ranks. I'm about kind of 275k. Yeah,
you're like
mate.
A phoenix over these few game weeks, mate.
Give it to me, Nacho. Just give it to me. You just tell me how good, I've been. No, I started bad, but the last 4 or 5 weeks have really rocked it up. And it just shows, if you're struggling, don't worry. It just takes, 3 or 4 or 5 weeks to rise up the rankings. Doesn't take long. So keep the faith. Should we have a look at how you got on, mate?
Yes, yeah, let's do it. So, thankfully, I've had a decent game week. So I've had a few dodgy game weeks over the last few, but thankfully, I've got currently 78 points. So just to reflect on my transfers, I made a -4 point hit. So I brought in Jota and I brought in Kevin De Bruyne. So I went sideways and I went from Sterling to Kevin De Bruyne. And basically, my main reasoning behind that was I had no belief in Sterling. The reason for that was with a player like that, when he isn't performing and getting the minutes, you're kind of holding him in the hope that he regains the form. And I think a lot of managers fall into this pit hole of waiting for him, not just Sterling, other players to kind of find that earlier season form. And right now, in my mind, he wasn't. Lo and behold, gets a goal and assist, doesn't he? But anyway, I was very happy with the move. Kevin De Bruyne obviously topped him there. And now I've got a player who I can happily captain. So yeah, Kevin De Bruyne was my one move and Jota the other. Similar thoughts on Jota, mate. Yeah. I think he's going to become good in the long term for sure. But yeah, 78 points. Still have McCarthy to play and Souček, the man delivering.
Jammy.
Well, I held him for a reason, and I think no. So I've done a bit differently to you. I held Grealish. I sold Basuma. I've kind of gone for a bit of a strategy here. This is something I want to talk about your team a little bit with. I've adopted it a little bit where I feel like I've got a few more players who I can call upon in my midfield. So previously I had Souček and Basuma. I've now upgraded Basuma into Jota, and I have Souček, who equally I think could contribute to the team. Whereas I think your strategy is a little different, isn't it? So you've got Stevens, is it on midfield?
Yeah, I've brought in Dale Stevens. I mean, no, go on.
The thing, mate. We spoke about Dale Stevens at the start of the season. I don't think he's a good pick, but he's a good bench fodder. But where I'm going with it is my strategy a little bit is now that I want a bit of squad depth going into the Christmas period. I think it's really important right now to have players that you can call upon and actually have the potential to get those 8-point hauls. So yeah, I think that is quite an important strategy going forward for managers. And looking at my team right now, the double Chelsea defence, Reece James coming in good, Diaz, clean sheet as we expected, and yeah, Salah doing the goods, and Bamford as well.
Yeah.
This is the one I want to talk about as well, you mate, because is
definitely.
he the better option than Calvert Lewin?
This is the big question right now, and it's absolutely fascinating, this, honestly. There is two sides to the argument of this, and I'm going to try and not be biased, okay? Let's try.
Yeah.
Don't you laugh. Shut it, Nacho. No, okay. I think first thing to say is that he'll still score goals, Calvert Lewin, because he's such a good finisher. Everton are attacking, and they do traditionally do well in those, they've got tough games, but they always do well against home in those big games. So I still think he'll tick over. I think the problem is Bamford is cheaper with really good fixtures, and his XG is so high, so he's getting so many chances. Yeah. And I think the problem with Calvert Lewin at the minute is Luca Dean is a massive miss for Everton, and so is Seamus Coleman. I mean, Coleman is meant to be back soon, but Luca Dean's going to be out for like another month or two, and that really affects Calvert Lewin. So, to be honest, mate, I am pretty 50-50. I think if you have Calvert Lewin from the start, there is a really strong argument to keep because you have so much value in him. But if you don't own Bamford or Kane, I'd be tempted to make the switch, and it's something I'm considering myself. But yeah, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think if you've held Calvert Lewin this long, then you've been rewarded so far, and I don't see any reason to get rid of him. Again, if I was looking for a cheap striker, I think Bamford would still be the man for me, and I'm kind of putting Calvert Lewin in that bracket. I think Bamford in this Leeds side Leeds are just looking good offensively. Obviously, the defence is a little bit less to behold, but I think Bamford, with his stats currently, he's so difficult to look past. I kind of thought I was bringing in a guy who couldn't finish, and I think when you kind of look at his stats, you do kind of veer towards, is he a good finisher necessarily, and he misses chances. But
He does.
when you get the volume that he does, I think it's a no-brainer to bring him in, and with the long-term fixtures, they're great. So for me, he's an excellent option going forward for sure.
Yeah, I think he is. I think in the short term, definitely. I would say that Leeds tend to fade off in this third half of the seasons, but for now, with those fixtures, I still think he's a great option.
Yeah.
Okay, so should we have a look at how our teams are set up for the next game week?
Yes, let's do it, mate. Let's have a look.
Let's do it. Okay, so let's have a look at my team. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I feel fairly comfortable about this game week. I think in terms of my transfer thoughts, I've got Jota and I've got to give him the Fulham game. But I don't like not owning Grealish. I think Grealish is such a fantastic FPL asset. Anything Aston Villa do, he's involved and they've got good fixtures. So I would like to do the Jota to Grealish move in a couple of game weeks, but I think I'm going to be just short on money. So I've got to think about that one.
So you're thinking of going back from Jota into Grealish?
And that was the plan, but I'm just short on money.
So is that because you see him as almost like a Foden 2.0, or is that just you favour Grealish over the long term?
Call me boring, but I prefer the safety of knowing that Grealish is...
We established this early, Nate. You're boring. No, I'm joking.
Shut it. I think I prefer the safety of Grealish. I think he's going to play every game. He's involved in everything Villa do, and I prefer that as an FPL asset. Jota does have good fixtures, so it's a difficult one. The only other thing I might consider, and we just spoke about it, is I could do Calvert Lewin down to Bamford, which would then allow me to have money to upgrade Jota to Grealish. So, do I want to do that? Do I want to do that?
I think you will have sleepless nights if you sell Calvert Lewin down to Bamford. From a non-biased perspective, I do think that Bamford long term is the better value pick. That's not to say that Calvert Lewin might not outscore him, but I think when you look at the actual price difference, that Bamford will be better value. But looking at your side, is it a transfer that's desperate to happen? I think the big thing for you right now and for myself is, what are your thoughts going forward with Harry Kane? Because looking at your team, Salah, De Bruyne, and Fernandes are holds.
Yeah.
And I think Kane is the one right now, which is the cash cow, where it's such a difficult sell because Tottenham are still winning games. He's still at the heart of everything. But do you see him as a potential cash cow going forward?
Again, he's one I could move down to Bamford, and it would allow me to upgrade my fifth midfielder to Grealish. So that's another thing I'm considering, but I can't sell Kane right now. I think when I come to wildcard in kind of game week 16, I do think I'll go for Son over Kane. I think the money in the bank, the extra point for goal, extra clean sheet, and I'll be happy to captain him. So I think I'll do that. But right now, I can't sell Kane.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think for those who do own Kane, until Tottenham, I think Tottenham aren't necessarily blowing teams away like 4-5-0 like Man City could do. But when Kane's at the heart of everything, it's such a tough sell. So I agree with you that for sure.
Definitely. So I'll be captaining Salah. I'm happy to own the Liverpool double up. So enough said about that. Should we have a look about how you're set up for next game week?
Yes. So I am pretty confident right now I'm going to roll a transfer. So last week was the first time I had done a points hit, and I was sweating, mate. I was completely sweating taking a points hit because I'm usually quite an aggressive manager, and I kind of went the opposite. And when I was sat there with that -4 point hit, God, I felt it, mate. So I'm kind of thinking, go back to my old ways and roll a transfer here. But no, looking at the team right now, I don't really see any necessary transfers going out. As we mentioned, Kane, I like it away at Crystal Palace. I think that's a good fixture for them on the counter-attack. I think Palace will be tough to break down as always, but when Tottenham score, it's Kane an assist or goal, so I'm happy to hold it. And as you mentioned, the Liverpool duo right now, you can't really sell them with this fixture coming up. If anything, I'll be looking to buy Liverpool players. So, yeah, right now, obviously, double Chelsea against that Everton is a guaranteed clean sheet.
Every time he has to get a dig in. Every single time.
No,
it's Christmas.
No, I think that's going to be an interesting game. And
it will.
I want to kind of a selfish kind of plug here. I want to go back to what I called a fair few shows ago about Chilwell and James being the Robertson and Trent this season. And I don't think they're necessarily going to go to them heights, but I think what they're showing right now is that even if they don't keep clean sheets, they can still bring you points in attack and returns. So that's why, for a game week like this, away at Everton, you shouldn't really be doubling up on Chelsea, but because they have the attacking potential, I'm comfortable playing them. So I still think that's a good strategy going forward if people are looking at a cheap kind of defensive double up for sure.
Yeah, I think it's worth saying as well that Giroud is really good for Reece James. Most of Giroud's goals always come when he cuts in, and those balls in from Reece James are perfect. So I think he really helps Reece James. I think, would you say, is there an argument, if you were picking one, would you go for Reece James over Chilwell now because of the price saving?
Yeah, so I think that no matter what, and this goes to any player you own, I think coming up to the Christmas period, every player is at risk of rotation. But from a Chelsea fan perspective, and I think from a neutral looking in, Reece James has now got that spot. I think Azpilicueta has the Champions League games. He's going to play in the cup games. And, you know, as I mentioned, in occasional games where Chelsea can afford to rotate their team, expect there to be an occasional rotation. But 9 times out of 10, I think Reece James is going to have that spot. And if anyone's been watching their games, he's an unbelievable crosser of the ball. And it's not a case of like he's getting a few. I think he's underperforming, if anything. So I think he could have had more assists. So I think if you're looking for a cheap option, then Reece James could be a good pick. And we'll throw in Kurt Zouma as well. Didn't think he was a good option because his goal scoring wasn't sustainable. But man, that guy can leap. So yeah, it's a good
great
option
header
to
of the ball.
as well.
Definitely. And your captain, who are you thinking?
Yeah, it's got to be Salah. Kevin De Bruyne, I still fancy him against Man United, to be honest with you. But I think Salah away at Fulham, it's got a great option there. So yeah, really happy with the team going forward. Roll in a transfer most likely. And then I think even good, the plan is to really strengthen the team even further. Possible rotation with Justin in defence. So that extra free transfer could just cover that going forward.
I think that's very wise, Nacho. Very wise.
That's why we get paid the big bucks, bud.
Won't go that far. Okay, so that's our teams and transfer plans. So it's worth saying that I'm actually going to be on Fantasy Football Scout's Scoutcast this week. So really excited about that. So yeah, have a watch that. Let us know what you think.
Give him a
yeah, he'll be giving me stick. And unfortunately, that is going to be our last episode until the new year. I know. I'm so sorry. Just obviously things are going to get so nuts, fixtures all the time, and we've actually got families to see, unfortunately.
Yeah.
We'd love to be here with you guys, but we've got to do it. But yeah, I think
it's really important to say that we are going to be still really busy on social media. So Twitter and Instagram, if you haven't already, be sure to follow us on there because we're going to be making sure we do live streams on there to answer any questions. So most likely early on in the week and coming up to the deadline. So we're not going to be totally radio silent, that's for sure.
Definitely. And just say, thank you so much to all of you guys giving us such amazing support over this last kind of year. Really helped us grow so quickly. All the amazing comments and the likes. It really actually does mean so much to us, doesn't it? And it makes putting in all this time really worthwhile. So thank you to everyone who's done that.
Yeah, no, we do really appreciate it. And obviously, as always, guys, if you can subscribe and hit that notification bell, we'll really, really appreciate it. And new year, there's going to be even more content and it's going to be better content. That's the main thing.
Definitely. We're looking forward to it. So thanks for watching, guys. See you next time. Thank you.